Hello everyone. I am the Midnight Storyteller and I am here to help you today. I know you use this video to fall asleep. So before that, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from and what time are you watching now? Get comfortable and relax. I've never believed in local legends. Ghost roads, cursed woods, vanishing towns, stuff like that was always just small-town boredom dressed up in creepy folklore. I was raised in one of those towns. The kind where the gas station closes at 8, and everyone knows when you sneeze. Nothing ever really happens there, so people invent things. At least, that's what I used to think. Last Friday, I was driving home from my friend Connor's house in the next county over. It was late, well past midnight, and I was exhausted. I'd taken the highway there, but on the way back, I figured I'd try a shortcut Google Maps kept suggesting. I'd seen the road 100 times before, branching off Route 14 into the woods. It was labeled Old Briar Path on the GPS, but I'd never taken it. Locals had a different name for it, the Loop. They said if you drove it alone at night, you might never get out. I always thought that was stupid. But that night, I was tired and curious. I turned onto the road without hesitation. Immediately, everything changed. The trees seemed denser, like they were leaning inward. My headlights barely reached 10 feet ahead. The pavement was cracked, faded, and uneven. I slowed down, uneasy now, but not afraid. Not yet. The GPS told me it was a 12-minute drive, just a bendy little forest road that would spit me out near the edge of town. Easy. I cranked up the volume on the radio to cut through the silence. Static. I switched to Bluetooth. My phone wouldn't connect. Then I noticed something weird, the temperature. It had been a warm August night when I left Connor's. But here, my breath fogged the windshield. I turned the heat on, confused. My dashboard said it was 43 degrees outside. I laughed to myself. Probably just a weird pocket of cold air. Forests can do that, right? But 5 minutes in, I passed a road sign I'll never forget. Bent, rusted, almost hidden in the overgrowth. White letters on a brown background, turn around while you can. I slowed to a stop. That wasn't a joke. That wasn't folklore. Someone, some official, had put that there. I should have turned around. God, I should have. But I didn't. I drove forward. The road narrowed. Not just visually, the trees really were pushing inward now, gnarled limbs reaching toward the car like crooked fingers. I rolled my window down an inch to get a clearer view. The air smelled strange. Damp, but not like rain. More like mildew and rot. Like something had been buried under wet leaves for too long. Another 2 minutes passed. My GPS froze. Still said I had 9 minutes left, but the blue dot wasn't moving. The signal bars disappeared entirely. Just no service. That's when I saw the second sign. It was newer, wooden, hand-painted, nailed to a tree like someone had made it in a hurry. Don't look at it. No context. No explanation. Just that. A chill prickled across my scalp. I glanced around, expecting to see some prankster with a camera, hiding in the woods. But there was nothing. No movement. Not even the rustle of wind through the trees. I sped up. Every instinct told me something was off. But the logical part of my brain, my rational side, kept insisting I was fine. People play jokes. Strange things happen in rural areas. It's all explainable. I don't remember when I first noticed the thing in my rearview mirror. At first, I thought it was a shadow. Just a shifting patch of blackness following the taillights. But it didn't stay that way. It began to grow. Stretch. Take shape. Humanoid. Too tall. Wrong proportions. Bent at the knees, but with arms that nearly scraped the pavement. It didn't run. It glided. My breath caught in my throat. I looked away. Straight ahead. Don't look at it. I pressed harder on the gas. My engine growled, tires crunching over broken asphalt and loose gravel. I wanted to scream. But no sound came out. Just keep driving. Just, something passed in front of my car. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded sideways, the rear end fishtailing just slightly on the uneven road. Heart hammering, I scanned the road ahead. Nothing. Empty. But there was a third sign now, hanging from an iron post that hadn't been there 10 seconds ago. IT knows you're here. My hands were locked around the steering wheel, knuckles white, muscles trembling. I didn't remember stopping the car. I didn't remember how long I'd been staring at that third sign either. IT knows you're here. I didn't want to know what it was. My headlights flickered. Once. Twice. Then they died. Darkness swallowed the forest. Not normal darkness, this was thicker. Absolute. It felt like it pressed against the windows, like it had weight. I couldn't see the trees anymore. I couldn't even see the hood of my car. I hit the high beams. Nothing. I reached for my phone. No signal. No battery. It had been at 60% before the drive. Now it was dead, cold, like it had been sitting in a freezer. Panic started to creep in. I turned the key. The engine wouldn't start. Just a clicking noise. Click. 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 Then silence. No rumble. No power. That's when I heard it. Something dragging along the pavement. Slow. Deliberate. Like nails on concrete. It circled the car. I couldn't breathe. I leaned forward, trying to see through the blackness. Nothing. But the sound kept moving. Around. Behind me. Then closer, just outside the driver's side door. My fingers brushed the lock. I clicked it down. Then the others. The dragging stopped. For a full minute, there was nothing. No sound. No movement. Even the crickets had vanished. Then, soft as a whisper, tap. 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 Something rapped against the glass. Once. Twice. 3 times. I didn't look. I couldn't. Every nerve in my body screamed to turn, to see. But I remembered the second sign. Don't look at it. Tears welled in my eyes. My vision blurred. I stared straight ahead, blinking rapidly, hands trembling. Tap. Tap. This time, on the passenger side. Whatever it was, it moved fast. Then the air changed. Thickened. Like the cabin pressure dropped. My ears popped. Something was inside. I didn't hear the door open. Didn't see it move. I just felt it, sitting in the back seat. I smelled it before anything else. Wet earth. Mold. Rusted iron. And breathing. Slow, ragged breaths. In. Out. Behind me. Inches away. I stared at the dashboard, heart pounding so hard I thought it might give out. The breathing behind me was uneven, like it struggled. Or maybe, it enjoyed the struggle. Each inhale sounded moist, wet, like lungs filled with swamp water. I couldn't move. My arms were locked in place, my body frozen with the kind of fear that doesn't just live in your mind, it takes over your bones. The interior mirror showed nothing. Just blackness. But I felt it. Whatever it was leaning forward. Closer. Close enough that I could feel warmth, not body heat, something else. Like a fever pressing against the back of my neck. I whispered to myself, "Don't turn around. Don't look." And then, it spoke. Not with words. Not in a voice. It pressed a thought into my head. "You see me now." My mouth went dry. My vision tunneled. I gripped the wheel and squeezed, trying to ground myself in reality, rubber, leather, cold steel under my palms. The passenger side window fogged up. 3 fingerprints appeared. Not human. They were long. Too long. Bent at odd angles. As if someone with broken, reversed knuckles had dragged them down the glass. The creature exhaled again. This time, the breath brushed my ear. It wanted me to look. I could feel it. Like the entire road had been waiting for this moment. And then, my headlights flickered back on. The forest returned. The mirror was clear. The car was empty. I spun in my seat, nothing. The back was empty. Clean. Dry. My hands shook uncontrollably. I shifted into drive and hit the gas, Will screaming as I tore down the cracked road. The GPS blinked back to life. Continue for 9 minutes to reach home. 9 minutes. But it had said that 12 minutes ago. And when I passed the next sign, it confirmed what I feared: "You've been here before." I didn't want to believe it. Maybe the sign was a coincidence. Maybe someone was trying to scare people, planting creepy messages in the woods to mess with drivers. But deep down, I knew better. I'd been here before. That same sharp bend in the road, the same leaning trees, the same patch of cracked pavement with a chunk missing on the right side. I remembered swerving to avoid it. I swerved again now. It was exactly the same. The loop wasn't just a story. It was real. And I was in it. The GPS chirped again. 9 minutes remaining. No change. No update. Just a cold robotic voice stuck in some digital purgatory, echoing a lie. My breath came shallow. I turned off the GPS, just to shut it up. I didn't want to hear it anymore. I tried to calm myself, repeating in my head, there has to be a way out. Every road has an exit. That's when I noticed the lights ahead. Headlights, 2 of them. Another car. Relief washed over me like a wave. I slammed on my horn, flashing my brights. The car was facing me, a few hundred feet away, completely still. I slowed down, cautious but hopeful. Maybe they could help. Maybe they were lost too. As I approached, I noticed the car wasn't running. No sound. No exhaust. It looked old. Covered in a fine layer of dust, as if it had been sitting for weeks. But the strangest thing? It was my car. Same make. Same model. Same exact dent on the front bumper from when I hit that shopping cart at the grocery store last winter. I rolled to a stop, barely able to breathe. That wasn't just my car. It was my car. And in the driver's seat, there was me. Or something that looked like me. It stared straight ahead. unblinking, face pale and blank, as if frozen in time. Then, without moving its mouth, it whispered, "You shouldn't have looked." The engine of the copy car roared to life. Its headlights flashed blinding white, and then it vanished. No sound. No tire screech. Just, gone. I was alone again. Or maybe I never was. My foot hovered over the brake pedal, shaking uncontrollably. I wasn't sure if I should stop or drive until the gas tank ran dry. My car, or that thing pretending to be me, was gone. Not driven away. Not turned. Just blinked out of existence. And I was left with the silence again. Only now, the silence felt heavier. Like the woods were holding their breath. Listening. Waiting. I eased forward, my eyes scanning every inch of the roadside. Every tree, every shadow. My headlights painted the forest in slow-moving beams, but they didn't reach far. Everything beyond them was still thick and dark and watching. That's when I noticed a figure on the shoulder ahead. It wasn't moving. I slowed, my breath catching. It was me. Again. Standing upright this time. Dressed exactly as I was that night, same hoodie, same jeans, same muddy shoes. It stood with its back turned, head tilted slightly to the side like it was listening. I stopped the car about 30 feet away. My other self didn't turn around. I cracked the window an inch, unsure why, but I needed to hear something. And then I did. A voice, my own, spoke from the figure, "He's watching you through my eyes." I slammed the window shut, locked the doors, and reversed, tires spitting gravel as I backed up blindly. When I looked forward again, it was standing directly in front of my hood. Same blank posture. Same tilted head. But now, its face was visible. It wasn't quite right. Like someone had recreated my face from memory. The eyes were too wide. The mouth, too tight. The skin, too smooth, like wax stretched over bone. It smiled. But the expression never reached its eyes. Then it opened its mouth. Slowly. Mechanically. Like a puppet. And from within, I didn't hear my voice. I heard my mother's. "Come home, sweetheart. Dinner's getting cold." I hit the gas. The figure didn't move. My car passed through it like it was made of fog. But the chill it left behind. I'll never forget it. I didn't slow down again. Not for curves. Not for signs. Not even when the trees started to change. The forest looked different now, twisted in ways that didn't make sense. Branches curled upward like claws. Trunks leaned together above the road, forming a tunnel of black wood. The bark looked wet, almost pulsing. Some trees had carvings in them, names, I think. But the letters weren't human. I refused to look closely. The road beneath me became softer. Less like asphalt, more like flesh. I felt every tire rotation sink just slightly, like I was driving across something that didn't want to be driven on. Then I saw something new. A small wooden shack appeared on the right side of the road. Crooked, with a single lantern glowing dimly inside. Smoke curled lazily from a cracked chimney. It looked out of place, like it had been plucked from an old dream and dropped here. I shouldn't have stopped. But I did. I pulled up beside it and cut the engine. I don't know why. Curiosity, maybe. Or something else. Like I was being led. The shack's door opened before I even reached for the handle. Inside, the glow of the lantern revealed shelves lined with objects, watches, wallets, Polaroid photos, old driver's licenses, all faded and dusty. Personal things left behind. At the center of the shack was a table. And on the table, my keys. Not the ones I had with me. Another set. Covered in dry mud, rusted, like they'd been there for years. Underneath them was a photo. It was a picture of me, standing next to my car, parked in the woods. But the trees were wrong. They were leafless. The sky was gray. And behind me, just over my shoulder, was that same figure. Grinning. I backed out of the shack, heart hammering in my chest, stumbled into my car, and turned the key. The engine started. But the radio turned on with it, by itself. Crackling static, then a voice, "He's almost done with you." I slapped the power button, trying to kill the radio. Nothing happened. The screen stayed black, the knobs didn't work, and the voice kept bleeding through the speakers like it was being fed from somewhere else. "He's almost done with you." The voice was wrong. Not robotic, not human. Like someone trying to imitate both. It bent and warped between tones, sometimes deep like thunder, sometimes fragile like a child pretending to whisper. I floored the gas. Trees flew by on either side, warping and twisting in my periphery. The road was no longer cracked asphalt. It was something older. Darker. It shimmered like oil, but there were no reflections. Just darkness, stretching endlessly forward. I looked in the rearview mirror. Nothing followed me. But that was worse. Because I knew something was supposed to. I passed another sign. It had no words. Just a mirror nailed to a crooked post, reflecting my headlights. But when I glanced into it, I didn't see myself. I saw my bedroom. My real one. Messy blankets. My desk. My phone. My lamp still on. Like someone had taken a photo just now. And sitting on the edge of my bed was me. Staring into the mirror. Into this mirror. Our eyes locked. And then it tilted its head and smiled. I veered off the road. The car jolted, tires hitting roots and gravel, bouncing violently as I crashed through underbrush. Branches slapped at the windshield, and something cracked my side view mirror clean off. I didn't care. I had to get out. The car finally came to a stop in a clearing. I killed the engine, lungs burning, heart threatening to collapse in my chest. And then I heard it. The breathing again. Not from behind me this time. But from beneath. From the floor of the car. As if something had been riding under the vehicle the entire time. Then the voice returned, this time not from the radio. But from the air around me. "Get out. He wants you to run." I didn't want to move. But I couldn't stay. The breathing from beneath the car grew louder, wet and irregular, like something with too many lungs was preparing to rise. The metal under my feet groaned, and I felt the floor bend upward slightly, as if something was pushing from below. I flung the door open and bolted into the woods. The cold hit me instantly. Not like normal cold. This one crept into my teeth, my bones, even my thoughts. The forest swallowed the sound of my steps almost immediately. No echoes. No crunch of leaves. Just silence, and that strange feeling of being watched from every direction. The flashlight on my phone still didn't work, but the moon was barely visible through the thick canopy. Just enough to see shapes. Tree trunks. Vines. Narrow paths snaking between dead brush. I didn't pick a direction. I just ran. The whispering started a few minutes later, soft, like wind through paper. It came from the trees. Not around them, from them. Bark peeled back as I passed, revealing thin slits like mouths, moving in sync, whispering things I couldn't fully understand. But one word came through again and again. Loop. 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 Sometimes in my voice. Sometimes in dozens of others. Men. Women. Children. A chorus of stolen thoughts. I stumbled, my foot catching on something half buried in the dirt. It was a shoe. Old. Faded. Still tied. I reached for it, but stopped when I noticed the ground. It wasn't dirt. It was fabric. Jackets. Pants. Backpacks. All half sunk into the soil like they had tried to escape but were slowly being pulled down. This clearing was a graveyard of the forgotten. I backed away slowly. That's when I heard it again. Footsteps. Not mine. They were heavy. Uneven. Slow. I spun around, nothing. But I could hear them circling. Crunch. Crunch. Pause. Crunch. Crunch. Closer. Then a voice whispered, right beside my ear, without breath, without warmth, "You'll end where you began." I turned to run, and saw the road again. Old Briar Path. But something was wrong. It was daylight now. The sun shouldn't have been up. I hadn't been out there for more than an hour, maybe two, but the forest was now bathed in soft morning light. Dew glistened on the leaves. Birds chirped overhead. The once black asphalt of Old Briar Path looked fresh, almost newly paved. Clean. Dry. It felt like a trap. Still, I stepped onto the road, blinking against the sudden brightness. My car was gone. The shack was gone. Even the signs, all of them, had vanished. I looked at my phone. It was on again. 7:42 a.m. Full bars. Battery at 58%. The GPS showed my location clearly. A little blue arrow on Old Briar Path, just a short stretch away from the highway. Just like it had promised. I should have felt relief. But I didn't. Because something was off. The air smelled too clean. Too still. Like someone had pressed reset on the world and tried to make it look real, but didn't know how it was supposed to feel. The birdsong looped in a way that made my skin crawl. Every 20 seconds, the same pattern. The same chirp. Over and over again. I walked. 10 steps. 20. Then I saw it, an orange traffic cone in the distance, at the edge of the highway. A sign beyond that. Civilization. Escape. I broke into a jog. And then I stopped. There, in the center of the road, right before the turnoff. Me. Again. Standing still. Smiling softly. But this time, it was different. It held a sign. A wooden one, carved into the surface as if by fingernail. Choose. It stepped aside, revealing two paths behind it. The one on the left, sunlit, familiar, paved. The one on the right, dark, narrow, dirt and shadow. I looked down at my phone. The GPS flickered, and displayed both roads. Left, home. Right, truth. The figure raised a hand, its hand, and pointed to the right path. Smiled wider. And whispered, "Only one of us leaves." My body froze, caught between instincts and logic. The left path looked safe, warm, normal. It even had a billboard just beyond the turn, an ad I remembered seeing a dozen times before, some local diner offering $3 pancakes. Comfort. Familiarity. The right path wasn't a path at all. It was more like an open wound in the forest. No light reached it. The trees leaned in tighter, the air itself seemed thicker. I couldn't see more than 5 feet into it. But something about it called to me. Not like a voice, but a pull. Like it was the only direction that mattered, even though everything in my head screamed to stay away. The figure, that twisted version of me, was still standing silently between the two. I approached slowly. It didn't react. Just held the sign, choose. I reached out. Not for the figure, but for the sign itself. The moment my fingers brushed it, the wood burned hot against my skin, and in that instant, images flashed through my mind, me, walking into the diner on the left path. Sitting down, smiling at the waitress, pretending none of it happened, but always watching the shadows, always hearing the whispers. Me, stepping into the dark, sinking, screaming, but understanding. The figure spoke again. You already chose. You came here. You stayed. I pulled my hand back. Then asked the only question that mattered, what happens if I choose neither? It smiled. Then you loop again. And next time, you won't remember it was a choice. I stared at the two paths. Every muscle ached for safety. For light. For that illusion of escape. But I stepped right. Into the dark. The figure didn't follow. As soon as my foot touched the dirt, I heard the sound of 100 clocks ticking all around me. Time bending. Rewinding. Twisting into something unnatural. And behind me, the sign burned into flame without smoke. A voice echoed once more, distant now, welcome to the part where you stop pretending. The instant I stepped into the right path, the air changed. It wasn't just darker, it was dead. No wind. No birds. No life. Just a dense, unmoving pressure that clung to my skin like smoke. The trees weren't normal either. They weren't growing, they were hanging. Suspended. Their roots reached upward into the canopy like they had been flipped upside down. Every step forward sounded muffled, as if the ground was absorbing the sound. I didn't know how long I walked. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. There was no sun. No phone. Just me and the forest that hated me for existing. Then I saw it. An opening up ahead. A dome-shaped clearing with no trees inside. Just earth, cracked and dry, like something had been ripped out from underneath. And in the center, a hole. Wide. Perfectly round. Its edges were lined with rusted nails, shards of glass, and pieces of bone. It wasn't dug, it looked like it had formed itself. A wound in the land. I stepped to the edge. It didn't look deep. But I couldn't see the bottom. A whisper rose from within. You are the echo now. Suddenly, the ground behind me cracked. I spun around. There were others now. Figures. Dozens of them. Human shapes, frozen in mid-step. All of them looking just slightly off, too thin, too still. Faces stretched with vacant expressions. Their eyes had no pupils. No life. But each one looked like me. Versions of me in different clothes. One in a hospital gown. One in a suit. One barefoot and bleeding. Some younger. Some older. All staring. I backed toward the hole. My foot slipped, gravel skidded off the edge and disappeared into the dark. The figures raised their hands as one, pointed at the hole. I turned back, and the voice inside spoke again. We all jumped. And then, without meaning to, so did I. The fall wasn't violent. It felt like I was being pulled, not dropped, like gravity had turned sideways and decided to carry me downward in slow motion. No wind. No rush. Just a weightless slide through complete, suffocating black. There was no bottom. At least, not one I ever reached. Instead, the darkness thinned gradually, like mist fading after a storm. Shapes began to emerge around me, flickering images suspended in space, like glass panes floating in the void. Each pane showed a moment. My moments. One showed me as a kid, crying beneath the porch while thunder cracked overhead. Another showed me older, standing in a hospital hallway, phone pressed to my ear, face pale. Each memory hovered for only seconds before vanishing like dust. This wasn't a tunnel. It was a catalog. Of me. The versions of me I'd forgotten, abandoned, or buried. And then, I saw one that wasn't mine. A scene I didn't recognize, a man standing in an empty classroom, holding a lighter. The walls were peeling, desks overturned. Behind him, something huge and dark moved across the ceiling. The figure looked toward me. And I realized, he looked like me too. But he wasn't. He smiled. And then everything snapped. I hit something hard. Cold. Wet. I was lying on my back, gasping, in what looked like a subway tunnel, stone walls, flickering lights overhead. The air reeked of rust and stagnant water. Tracks stretched out in both directions, curving endlessly into darkness. Above me, the ceiling pulsed, flesh-like. Breathing. And on the wall to my right, smeared in what I prayed was red paint, were the words, "This is where echoes become real." I sat up too fast. My head spun. And from deep within the tunnel, I heard footsteps. But not approaching. Following. Mimicking mine. Step for step. I froze. The sound of footsteps continued, not in front of me, not behind me, but around me. Echoing from every direction, but always perfectly synchronized with my movements. I lifted one foot. Silence. I stepped forward. Step. And then, another step, just a half-second behind mine. It was copying me. No matter how fast or slow I walked, the sound was mirrored perfectly, but never in unison. Always just slightly delayed. Like whatever it was needed that extra second to figure out how to be me. I glanced down the tunnel. Nothing. Just flickering fluorescent lights hanging from the arched ceiling, some swaying, some broken. The walls were sweating. Actual droplets forming and running down like tears. The floor was slick and covered in grime, but there were no footprints except mine. Still. I knew I wasn't alone. I began walking slowly, hugging the right side of the tunnel. My echo followed. Then, without warning, the lights ahead of me began to die. Pop buzz. Dark. One by one, they went out, like dominoes. I turned to run, and slammed into myself. But this version of me wasn't like the others. It was wrong. Not just in the face. In the movement. Like it had bones that bent too many ways, joints that rolled instead of flexed. It moved like it had worn my skin too long and it was starting to wrinkle. Its mouth opened far too wide. And then, with my exact voice, it screamed, "Stop remembering." The sound pierced straight into my head like a blade. I dropped to my knees, clutching my skull. Visions exploded behind my eyes, brief flashes, a stairwell with no end. A white door marked, "Do not dream." Rows of mirrors with nothing reflected. And then, one final image, a door. Wooden. Faintly glowing. And carved into it, the exit. But not for you. When I looked up again, the copy of me was gone. But something else was waiting where it stood. Not a version of me. Something older. Something real. And it finally spoke, "You're almost hollow enough." The thing in front of me wasn't wearing my face. Not anymore. It didn't need to. It had moved past mimicry. It stood upright, taller than any human, bones visible through its translucent skin, pulsing faintly with dark light. Its head was too small, its limbs too long, and where a face should have been, there was only a spiraling void. A whirlpool of smoke and whispers. And yet, I knew it was watching me. I could feel it. Its presence gnawed at my mind. Not like a scream, but like silence that had grown teeth. It didn't advance. It didn't speak again. It just stood there, waiting. Waiting for something to give out. My breath? My will? My sense of self? "You're almost hollow enough." That phrase rang in my head again, not in sound, but in thought. Like the words were carved into me. Like every moment I'd spent here had been scraping away at who I was. And I was cracking. I stood slowly, legs shaking. The creature didn't move, but the tunnel behind it did. It bent. Warped. The light stretched like melting glass, and the tracks beneath its feet folded in on themselves like paper burned too close to fire. Reality was starting to break around it. I turned and ran the other way. No plan. No logic. Just instinct. I ran blindly through side corridors, past shattered lights, over rusted grates and forgotten machinery. Doors slammed shut behind me that I didn't touch. Others swung open on their own. The walls pulsed like they had veins. Then I saw it. A door. Not glowing. Not marked. Just wood. Real wood. A doorknob. Hinges. Like it had no right to be here. I didn't hesitate. I reached for it and threw it open. And found myself in a room. A small, square room with plain gray walls. No windows. Just a single chair, bolted to the center of the floor. And on the chair, a tape recorder. Old. Dusty. Labeled, "Final Loop." I stood in the doorway, staring at the tape recorder like it might explode if I moved too fast. The room didn't feel like part of the tunnel. It was too clean. Too still. Like it existed outside the rules of the place I'd been trapped in. The humming noise, the ever-present whispering, the breathing beneath things, was gone here. But it wasn't silence. It was waiting. I stepped inside. The moment my foot crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind me. No handle. No lock. Just a flat wall now. The chair in the center creaked as if someone had just gotten up from it. But there was no one. Only the recorder. Its red light blinked. Still powered. Still ready. I picked it up. It was warmed. Not electrically, biologically. Like a living thing. My thumb hovered over the play button for too long. I didn't want to know what I'd hear. But I also couldn't leave without pressing it. I sat in the chair. And I pressed play. Static. Then, my voice. If you're hearing this, that means you made it to the end. Or close enough. I swallowed. It was me. Not just my voice. My cadence. My tone. Like I was leaving myself a message. But I didn't remember recording it. You're inside the loop. You always were. The only difference now is, you've seen the walls. They don't like that. The tape clicked once. The thing wearing you, it can't hold on much longer. You've resisted too much. That's good. That's why I left this here. Because we figured out how to end it. I leaned closer. The tape hissed. There's no door. No exit. But there is a choice. Let it take what it wants, and you forget. You'll wake up in your bed tomorrow and this'll all feel like a dream. A nightmare. Or, the voice trembled, just slightly. You keep the memory. And you never go back. But it follows. Forever. My heart sank. There it was. The loop didn't trap you with walls. It trapped you with doubt. If I chose to forget, maybe I'd be free. Maybe I'd go back to my life. But I'd be empty. Hollow. A shell. If I chose to remember, I'd never truly escape. At the bottom of the tape, I heard one last whisper. Barely audible. Just one sentence, choose before it finds the door again. And then, behind me, footsteps. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. The footsteps behind me weren't rushed, but they were deliberate. Measured. Like something that knew it didn't need to hurry. Like it knew I had nowhere else to go. The recorder in my hand was still warm. Still pulsing. The voice, my voice, had given me two options. Forget, and be free. Or remember, and be haunted. Neither felt like a win. One would cost me my identity. The other, my sanity. The footsteps stopped. Right behind the chair. I could feel the weight of its presence pressing against my back like static in the air. The same pressure I'd felt back in the car. In the shack. In the tunnel. It had followed me through every version of this nightmare. And now it was here. Waiting for my choice. I closed my eyes and whispered to myself. I want to remember. Silence. Then, a breath. Right beside my ear. It didn't speak. It didn't scream. It just breathed, as if it was disappointed. Or maybe, amused. The warmth of the recorder surged through my hand, then burned. I dropped it. It clattered on the floor, and the moment it did, the walls cracked. All at once, fractures spiderwebbed across every surface. The room groaned like it was collapsing from the inside out. The chair beneath me melted, its legs dissolving into a black, tar-like sludge. I leapt to my feet, stumbling backward as the cracks widened. And behind me, a new door. Not marked. Not glowing. Just open. No tricks. No riddles. Just light spilling out. I ran for it. And the second I crossed the threshold, everything disappeared. The tunnel. The voice. The footsteps. Gone. I woke up in my bed. Sweating. Gasping. Morning sunlight bleeding through my curtains. My phone was on the nightstand. My shoes were clean. My clothes weren't torn. Everything was normal. But I remembered everything. And so did the thing in the mirror. Because when I looked up, it smiled. It didn't move. Not in the normal sense. But the reflection smiled. And I didn't. My heart stopped for a beat, then slammed back into rhythm like a starter pistol went off in my chest. I raised my hand slowly. So did the reflection. I tilted my head slightly. So did it. But the smile stayed. That wasn't me. I stood there for what felt like hours, staring at the mirror. Waiting. Hoping it was a delayed muscle twitch or some dream residue messing with my head. Then the reflection blinked, before I did. I stumbled back, crashing into my desk chair. It tipped and fell, clattering to the floor. I didn't care. I kept my eyes on the mirror, heart racing, breath shallow. The reflection was gone. The mirror showed nothing. Just the bedroom. Empty. No me. No anything. I stepped closer. Still no reflection. And then, words began to appear across the glass. Etched not by hand, but by pressure, like something on the other side was writing with its finger. We remember too. One letter at a time. Each scrape of the message made my teeth ache. Then underneath it, you broke the loop. Now it breaks you. The glass cracked. Just once. Down the center. A hairline fracture. But I knew it was the beginning. I turned away. Every screen in my room, my phone, my monitor, even the digital clock, blinked on. Each one displayed the same thing. My face. Staring back at me. All of them smiling. Every screen blinked in sync. Phone. Monitor. TV. Clock. And every single one showed me, or rather, something wearing my face. Each smile was slightly different. Too wide. Too still. Too knowing. Like they weren't trying to mimic me anymore. They were mocking me. I covered the monitor with a towel. Unplugged the TV. Smashed the digital clock. I even turned off my phone and dropped it into a drawer. It didn't matter. When I looked back at the mirror, the crack had spread. Not a single line now, but dozens, crawling like veins across the surface. The writing was gone, but the message lingered in the air like smoke. The silence in my room wasn't empty anymore. It felt listening. Curious. And then came the knock. 3 soft taps on my bedroom door. I live alone. I didn't move. Not at first. The knock came again. Same rhythm. Tap. 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 But this time, a whisper followed, muffled through the door. It's safe now. It's morning. My own voice. Perfectly mimicked. A chill ran down my spine. I backed away, step by step, until my heel brushed the bed frame. Then a second voice joined it, also mine, but younger. Don't be scared. We're you. You're us. Then a third, deeper and raspier, from somewhere inside the closet. You let us in. Don't you remember? The doorknob turned. I lunged forward and locked it. Silence. For 10 full seconds, there was no sound. No whisper. No breathing. Just the soft ticking of the one clock I had forgotten to smash. Then, the mirror shattered. Not exploded. Not broke. Shattered inward. As if something had stepped through it from the other side. I turned slowly. Glass on the floor. A trail of black footprints, wet and steaming, led from the mirror to the foot of my bed. And resting on the pillow was the tape recorder. Blinking red. The room was colder now. Not just in temperature, but in tone. Like the walls had drawn closer. Like the air itself was waiting for my reaction. I stared at the tape recorder on my pillow. Its red light blinked slowly, almost like a heartbeat. I hadn't brought it here. I had left it inside the loop. I saw it melt. I saw it vanish. And yet, here it was. I didn't want to touch it. But I knew I would. I picked it up with trembling fingers, careful not to disturb the black, steaming footprints that still stained the floor. The moment I pressed play, the blinking stopped. And a voice, not mine, began to speak. Low. Whispered. Not male or female. Not old or young. Just, there. We told you, the loop doesn't end. It only shifts. You chose to remember. Now you must carry. This world will look the same. Your friends, your job, your home, all as you left them. But the mirrors will always show what you brought back. And we will follow. A click. Silence. I dropped the recorder, and it hissed, disintegrating into ash the moment it touched the sheets. I stood there, frozen. Listening. Then, footsteps. From the hallway. I wasn't alone in the apartment. I reached for the door, but stopped when I saw the reflection in the mirror shards scattered across the floor. It wasn't me. It was every version of me I'd seen in the loop. Standing together. Watching. Smiling. And in unison, they whispered, "We're awake now." End of story.